This is a story about now or never. About the pain of pushing through the discomfort of the present moment, or the repercussions of shackling yourself to regret for eternity. Trust me, I'll be the first to admit life is messy and complex and largely lived in the gray space. It's a game of nuance and detail, of interpretation. But sometimes, my friends, it's much simpler. Sometimes life comes down to two options: getting it done, or wondering what life could have been if you had the courage to. A few weeks ago, I did some rucking in Sedona with my friends Zach and Adam. And the cool thing about this hike was that, you kind of work your way up the mountain, and then at the top, there's a series of pools you can jump into. It's really refreshing, a nice little reward after a long, hot trek. And so, ultimately, we arrive at our destination. We're setting down our bags, getting ready to jump in. And a group of kids, I'm guessing high school-ish, asked us about the cameras and what we were filming. We introduced ourselves, said we were making a video for YouTube. What kind? They asked. Well, I said the kind that, if we do it right, inspires people to take life up a notch. They smiled, probably only half understanding what I was talking about, and then we went about our separate ways. Until maybe about 20 minutes later, I'm sitting on a rock with Zach and Adam, and I hear a shout from above me. It was one of those kids standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down, trying to convince himself to jump into the water below, just like all his friends had done. And you could tell he was visibly struggling. He called out, "Hey, speaker guy," to which I put two and two together and accepted the role of speaker guy. "What's up?" And he yelled back with kind of a half grin on his face, "Help me, give me a little something here." I look over my shoulder. Zach, who's always one step ahead of me, was smiling, had the camera rolling, and gave me a nod like, "Well, what do you have for him, speaker guy?" Funny enough, I've been in that same spot before. And I know I speak in metaphors sometimes, but this time, I mean literally, I've been in that position. Standing on the edge of a cliff, very similar to that one. Scared to jump in, just like all my friends had done. I even wrote a speech about it, maybe 7 years ago. Fair to say I'd earned that confidence. And so I laughed, I looked up, and I'm paraphrasing, but essentially said, it's simple. You can jump now and only feel this way, right? The fear and anxiety for the next 10 seconds or so, or you can turn around, and this moment will live on forever as one of cowardice in your mind. It's a giant almost on your resume. Plus, and this is a giant plus, if you run away, your friends will definitely call you a p. Immediately started counting the guy down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1. 1. 1. And eventually he jumped. And I can't speak for him, obviously, but it was such a relief. It was really awesome to see. It's always great to see someone have a breakthrough. Plus, it felt poetic to help someone in the same position that I'd been in. Not to mention with cameras rolling. It was just a cool moment. A symbolic moment. Because life is somewhat cyclical. In these instances, they don't happen just once. If you're living life right, you find yourself here, at that ledge, again, and again, and again. But the context is often different. The stakes are often higher, the ledge often further up. The decision, though, well, that stays consistent. Do what scares you and grow, or run away and dance with that regret forever. And this This is where I point the finger directly at you, where I plead with you to take a second. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, what ledge are you on right now? What cliff have you been standing on, peering down at the very answers you so desperately need? The journey that's been calling. This is where I ask you to find the courage to jump into that very thing you fear most. Knowing that it's the only thing standing between the life you're living and the life you most want to be living. Perhaps our existence can be summed up as a series of cliffs, a process of calculated leaps into vast unknowns, where you don't even know you've made the right move until you find yourself submerged in the water below, knowing you conquered the demon that was doing everything it could to hold you back. But the demon's everything cannot hold a candle to your everything, because your everything is determined by, well, you. Your everything goes as far as you choose to take it. Your everything stops when you stop. Your everything climbs as high as you want to ascend. So when you're in that moment, when you're on that ledge looking down at the portal to a new reality, taking in the world of what if, remember, what you feel isn't an indicator that the future is wrong. It is a toll. It makes sure you really want what you say you want. It's the price tag attached to what life could be. So don't let the friction of the present moment diminish a tomorrow with infinite upside. Because life will present to you many cliffs. It will color them with fear and anxiety and what ifs. But one thing pierces the heart of that monster. One word slays that dragon. One word connects your mountaintop to the next. Jump. Sometimes, life is exactly what we want it to be. Things feel like they're happening. Momentum seems to open every door. Opportunity waits around each corner with open arms. Man, those times are great. But this is not one of those times. Not at all. What I want to do is explore the moments of in-between. The instances of solitude and quiet. The periods of tension that exist between heartbeats. Because in those silent deserts, we don't just endure. We discover something truly profound. Me? I've spent plenty of time wandering through the deserts of life. I can even make the argument, both literally and metaphorically, that it's where I find myself now. Where the great unknown pleads with you to trust it, whispering confirmation that it will lead you to answers, so long as you lock your eyes on the horizon and keep your feet moving. But just like the sand acts as a blanket covering everything below, the rocks, the plants, the cacti, you are leaving only the shape of who you once were. An outline, a reference point, trading the certainty of what's known for the danger, the uncertainty, the risk of a world undiscovered. See, out here amidst the deserts of life, through the mirage of safety, you discover that the thing you need most, well, it's never complicated. This reminder is both profound and simple. It pulls you in and demands that you remember. That you remember you have everything you need to emerge from this chaos. And should you choose to push through, you will be better for it. Over and over and over again, the deserts of life make me into the man I am supposed to be. Not because they reveal the world to me, but because they reveal me to myself. They remind me of the world within, the internal strength, the resolve. Perhaps not to know, but certainly to move forward when I don't. It is through the deserts of life that you find your oasis. It is the very nothing you wander through now that becomes everything. And so maybe, just maybe, this is the reminder you need. Maybe life feels desolate. Maybe there aren't any answers. Maybe the missing validation invokes fear, and the pressure to return to worlds you left behind grows stronger. Well, let this be life telling you that these aren't skippable moments. That you will, amidst this very trudging through the dunes of nothingness, find yourself again. A deeper, more meaningful, powerful version of yourself. This desert points a mirror back at you for a reason. The adversity is not here to break you. It's here to remind you how strong you've always been. It's here to show you that not only will you endure, but the deserts of life will shape you into the person you were always meant to be. I can't be sorry. See, I used to carry guilt like armor, apologizing for the way I grew, the things I outgrew, for the people who left when I stopped dimming my light. I can't be sorry anymore. I can't be sorry for those I lost along the way. Not because I didn't care, I did. But because I finally started caring about myself. I can't be sorry for old conversations, rooms that echoed but never truly heard me. Friendships built on a version of me that's long dead. I can't be sorry for choosing peace over approval, stillness over chaos, truth over comfort. Believe me, it's a mistake I've made. I tried to explain, to even shrink. I've twisted myself into 1,000 shapes, just to make sure no one around me felt uncomfortable. To make sure the externalities were aligned. But I've learned that the people who truly love you, well, they don't need you to vanish to accept you. And I'm not angry. I'm not bitter. There's no resentment. I'm just not sorry. I'm not sorry for the evolution that took place. I'm not sorry for dreaming bigger. I'm not sorry for asking more of myself and my life. And if that makes me hard to figure out or understand, then so be it. Because I can't apologize for becoming someone I'm proud of. I can't apologize for the silence I now protect like gold. I can't apologize for walking away from anything that required me to be less than whole. See, growth is messy. It leaves behind fragments. It burns bridges that were only ever meant to take you part of the way there. And still, I move forward. Carry no hate, but simultaneously no shame, because I can't be sorry, not anymore. And if that makes the world uncomfortable, that's okay. Because for the first time in a long time, I'm truly here. And for that, I can't be sorry. I saw a rabbit again today. Wow, a rabbit. Groundbreaking. Okay, you laugh, but it means something to me. Every time I'm on the verge of doubt, I swear one shows up. It's quiet, simple, but in that moment, I know I'm on the right path. The right path? Dude, you've been wandering for years. Call it what it is, lost. The rabbit didn't save you. It won't save you. It can't save you. This is not working. Maybe you forgot what it means to trust something before it makes sense. To build without applause. To keep going when the map is gone, but the compass still points forward. Trust something. Yeah, that was easier when the numbers were rising, when people cared, when you mattered. Now you're a shadow, chasing old echoes, clinging to memories like they're momentum. You think it's about being seen? It's never been about the stage, it's about the message. And that message still burns in me. Hotter than it ever has. Then why does it feel like you're dying with it? Why are your ideas heavier than ever? Why does every step forward feel like pulling the entire world behind you? Because that's what it means to grow. You carry what others can't see. You feel what they're not ready to understand. That weight you talk about, it's proof you're still in the game. Or maybe it's proof you're just too stubborn to quit. Maybe you've confused belief with delusion. Maybe this isn't growth, maybe it's resistance to life, to reality, to change. No, it's resistance to settling, to giving up the one thing I was put on this planet to do. You know what failure is? It's not falling short. It's sitting across from yourself and lying. Yeah, well, what if we already passed the best parts? What if this is the decline? Then let it be earned. Let the descent be fought for. Let me collapse at the finish line, not walk away from the race. But aren't you tired? Of course I am. But tired does not mean done. Tired means I'm alive. It means I'm doing something that matters. Even if it breaks you? Especially if it breaks me. Because on the other side of broken is rebuilt. The phoenix rising from the ashes. On the other side of doubt is conviction. And on the other side of fear, well, is a rabbit. You really think that means something? I know it does, because I choose to let it mean something. And isn't that what belief is? Choosing meaning when the world gives you none? Then what now? We're here. 2 chairs, a setting sun, no audience, no applause, just silence and shadows. That's all you have. Then we sit. And we speak and we remember that this is the fight. The moment between quitting and continuing. And I'm choosing to continue. Because belief doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't wait for certainty. It sees a random rabbit in the desert and says, I am right where I need to be. Yeah? And if you're wrong, then I'll be wrong honestly. With every step forward, with every word spoken, with every chapter written in the dark. Because the only thing worse than failing is never believing enough to try. It's letting go with the world at your fingertips, a blank canvas and a brush in your hand. You see just a rabbit. I see a reminder that the infinite is waiting. At first, there was just silence. Not peace, but the kind of silence that swallows you. That echoes the question you've been too afraid to ask. How did I get here? I woke up in the woods. No trail, no map, no signal. Only questions and a never-ending sea of pine. There's something utterly terrifying about being alone. Not physically, but emotionally, existentially. It's not the wilderness that breaks you. No, it's what the wilderness reveals. It shows you everything you've been running from. You start to see the fears you've buried, the questions you've ignored, the truths you've traded for comfort. And that's when you meet the version of you you've been avoiding. The version of you that's not afraid to fall apart because he knows how to build himself again. You see, it's easy to talk purpose in a warm room. It's easy to say you're brave when you're not being tested. But out here, where it's quiet, where the sun takes its time, where the only sound is your own breath, this is where real decisions are made. Not in front of a crowd, not after the victory, but now. When you're scared, when you're shaking, when there's no one to clap for you and no one to blame, that's when you choose. You choose whether to shrink back into the dark or take one step forward into the light. You choose whether this is where the story ends or where it begins again. You're not lost. You're becoming. You're not broken. You're being forged. This is the place. where you trade panic for purpose, you trade running for rising, you trade fear for fire, and maybe, just maybe, you were never meant to be found until you found yourself here. So for those who are lost, good. It means you're no longer pretending. It means it's time to begin. Dear younger me, it's been a while. And over the course of these last 7 years, there's been highs, there's been lows, there's been ups and downs. There's been moments of happiness and contentment and pure bliss. There's also been periods of loneliness and confusion and despair. Life is a roller coaster ride. But this ride teaches you something. Teaches you lessons that, in my mind, they make up the difference between existing and truly living. Between giving some of yourself to the world and giving all of yourself to the world. And so, younger me, what I want to do is share a few lessons that I've picked up since the last time we talked that I think you need, I think can be the difference in your journey. If you implement them, they will matter. They will differentiate you. So, take a breath, sit down, and listen to this letter addressed to you. First things first is believe in yourself. And I know, it's easier said than done. But younger me, it is everything. Because here's the deal. Sometimes life feels like this, like chaos. It doesn't quite make sense. You have a vision of something beautiful and meaningful and worthwhile, but you look to your left and you look to your right and you see nothing but chaos, and that's hard. There's no one that's going to tell you that you're on track. There's no one that's going to put their arm around you and tell you your dream is real and it's amazing and it's happening. There's no one that will be able to see it the way you can, and that's a lot of weight. But younger me, I need you to remember, nothing makes sense until it's real, and nothing becomes real until you build it. That means every step through the chaos and the destruction and the turbulence, it matters. It's building, it's accruing. You're bringing it to life, and someday those very same people who told you it didn't make sense will get it. And they'll come up to you and they'll thank you for your dedication and your effort. And they'll ask you, hey, show me, how can I build something like this? And you'll smile and say, well, it starts with standing in a broken house, in a construction zone. It starts with pouring yourself into something that looks so broken, it's laughable from the outside. Younger me, if you have that kind of conviction and that kind of self-belief, there's nothing you can't do. Younger me, second thing I want to tell you is that life is messy. If you take flight, that means there will be crash landings. There will be turbulence. There will be times where things feel shaky, but younger me, that's the name of the game. I used to think there were people out there and they had the answers and they had it right and they knew what they were doing. As time went by, younger me, I learned a few things. First, absolutely no one on earth has any idea what they're doing. And number two, there is no right way to do anything. And you might hear that and be overwhelmed. No, younger me, that's the magic. Life is not about following a formula or passing a test. It's about pushing yourself off into the world and making something of it. It's exploring. It's being a child walking around a living room and using the instruments in your proximity to bang things, to make noises, to express yourself, to create beauty. There is no right way. And you'll be tempted, younger me. You'll look around and you'll see someone who did something and think, well, I need to be like that. You'll see someone who succeeded at X, Y, and Z and think, well, I need to follow their blueprint. Younger me, that is the path to be a B version of somebody else. To be yourself, you have to treat the world like it is a canvas, and you are a painter about to paint the most beautiful thing imaginable. I'm asking, younger me, that you be one of the people with the courage to pick up the brush and paint, to try things, to go into a world that is unknown and uncertain and scary and push boundaries. Because you'll fall, but when you get back up and you shake off your hands and brush off your knees, you'll find magic that would otherwise have gone untapped. I know it can hurt, and I know it can be stressful, and I know it can be overwhelming. But that's not a bug, younger me, that's a feature. That's what it's all about. Ride that uncertainty to something meaningful. Next, we have enjoy the present moment. We're future-oriented, and that can be good. It's good to be ambitious. It's good to want things. It's good to push yourself into difficult situations to grow. But younger me, all we'll have ever is the present moment. In fact, I heard a quote recently where someone said, you could spend the next 20 years accumulating wealth, millions, dedicate your entire self to creating this world where you have everything you've ever wanted. But at the end of 20 years, you will absolutely, no doubt, give it all back to be where you are now. There's nothing more precious than time, younger me. And it's easy to never look around, to never look at the ground at your feet. There's beauty in the mundane things, the things we take for granted, the things we don't understand their value until they leave our lives. Their absence lets us know that, hey, that did mean something to me. And younger me, what I'm proposing is that you find gratitude and appreciation for those things before they're gone. That you really cherish them while they're here. Because younger me, if you're always looking ahead, there will always be a hole in your heart. If you're always looking ahead, fulfillment will be nothing more than a mirage. So younger me, smile and enjoy this ride. Younger me, this one's controversial. I've ebbed back and forth. I've, to and fro here, but this matters, younger me. Follow your passion. And I'll tell you what, there's a contrarian argument that says, don't worry about your passion. Do what you're good at. Become skilled in something and learn to love it. And I get it. I understand it. Pragmatically, that makes sense. But younger me, if you want to create from the heart, it's a little bit different. And I'm a believer, younger me, that the things that change the world do come from the heart. There's a sense of curiosity and purpose and excitement. The reason that matters is because doing hard things rocks you to your core. It can break you. It tears you down. And you have to repeatedly build yourself back up. And younger me, if there's no love there, if there's no passion there, what's the incentive? Younger me, I think you can change the world. That's not semantics. It's not conjecture. I believe that you can, which means, younger me, you better care about the path that you're walking. It means when you move into the storm, you better believe in that sun on the other side. Otherwise, younger me, the off-ramps become too appealing. It becomes too easy to want to turn around, to take shelter, to go in and wait until the rain stops. Younger me, I think your mission is different. I think what you're about to do means more. So younger me, they might laugh and scoff at the idea that passion runs the world, but I think the things that matter are born from passion. Younger me, if you don't know this by now, I'm going to reiterate for you. Fear. Fear, that thing that stops us dead in our tracks. When our hands shake, younger me, it's easy to see that as a stop sign, as something wrong. But I want to remind you that friction is what separates where you currently are from where you can be. Everything of value came through fear of being unknown and unsure. Every feeling of bliss was separated by a wall of uncertainty, of what ifs, of, hey, this could go wrong. This could be terrible for me. This could be the worst decision I've ever made. And theoretically, younger me, that's not wrong. But what if everything went right? Younger me, I need you to remember that. I need you to ask yourself that question. What if everything worked out? What if it went exactly how you wanted it to go? You can play defense your whole life. You can live scared. You can run away from the worst case. Or you can step into something and chase the best case. A lot of people don't follow through on what they can be. Not because the world chained them down, younger me, but because they chained themselves down. They took themselves out of a game with 1 second on the clock, down by 1. Not you. Younger me, when you're afraid, understand it, feel it, embrace it, but just know that it's not going to keep you where you are. It's something you're going to have to smile as you walk past and move on to better things. Younger me, this one's simple. But again, we come to this rule: the simple things are not the easy things. Here's the deal, younger me, you can always aim higher than where you're aiming. Always. There's an old rule in special operations that says when you think you're done, you're only at 40% capacity. Younger me, I heard that and I applied it to every aspect of life. We stop long before we are done. So younger me, aim high. There's a quote by Thoreau. He says, if you've built your castles in the air, good. Your work need not be lost. Now put the foundations under them. Younger me, the ones who aim high, the ones who dream big, at least give themselves a chance. You can always do more. You can always be more. And yeah, enjoy yourself. Love the process. Have fun on the ride. But inject meaning into it. A lot of people stop short. Again, younger me, don't be a lot of people. Point at the mountaintop. Number 7, younger me, don't hold on too long. There are people in our lives that don't serve us, that don't make our world better. They don't add, they take away. And younger me, it's okay to respectfully put up boundaries and let those people go. It doesn't even mean that they're awful people. It doesn't mean that in some way they didn't add value, because every encounter and interaction technically does. But younger me, it's as simple as some people are not forever people. And the sooner you understand that, the freer you are. The weights leave your ankles. The same way, younger me, that just because you've always done something doesn't mean you have to do it. Just because something's been in your life or a part of who you are since you can remember, it doesn't need to stay there. Freeing yourself from the things that are not conducive to where you're going, younger me, means so much more than what you can pick up and acquire. Most of the time, our struggles come from not lack. They come from carrying around things that we don't need. And so, younger me, this is a call for you to have the courage to, when you look to your left and look to your right and see things that don't fit in the picture, that don't lift you up or push you forward, to smile, appreciate the existence of what surrounds you, but to let it go. Younger me, for the finale, I'm going to leave you with a big one. Might not be what you think. It's not rah-rah. It's not go get 'em. It's not step up, son. Younger me, it's be patient with yourself. understand that to demand perfection is a fool's errand. Because life is an experiment. And to experiment requires risk. It's trial and error. It's a game of making mistakes so that you can learn from mistakes. If you're scared to fail and break things, you'll never get that experience and that progress. You'll never get the instruments or the pieces required to build that which is meaningful. Younger me, every single one of these lessons that I'm explaining to you, every single one of these points I've had to learn in different contexts over and over again. And guess what? As soon as I put down this mic and I go about my life, I'll have to learn them again and again. Because the world changes around us. We adapt. We grow with it. Younger me, give yourself the grace to move with that current. To not be broken when things are hard or challenging, but to understand that you're doing the best you can. Understand that you're the type of person who tries things, therefore falls, but always gets back up. Love yourself enough, younger me, to give you that gift. If you're not patient with yourself, if you don't protect yourself, if you don't love yourself, no one else is going to do it for you. So younger me, I hope you remember that turbulence is not the end of the world. In fact, statistically, no plane has ever crashed due to turbulence. It is the nature of flight, and you can endure. You will endure. Our grandfather said when we were younger, you are always stronger than you think you are. Life may be great. It may be difficult. You may be in that valley in between. Wherever you are, understand that 1, you belong where you are, and 2, you're strong enough to endure. If you remember those things, younger me, the sky is the limit. And we meet again 7 years from now. You'll see, you'll understand, you'll get it. We'll be in a different place, different thoughts, different ideas to share, maybe the same ideas in different contexts. But we'll have done so knowing that we lived authentically with our heart, and we did everything we could to step into the world with courage. The saying goes, shoot for the moon. If you miss, you'll land amongst the stars. But wait, they will tell you to aim lower. Not because you can't, but because they didn't. Because the unknown is loud and their fear is even louder. They'll tell you to want less, to shrink your reach, to trade your fire for comfort. They'll ask, why risk falling when you can learn to love the floor? They'll talk about gravity as though it's gospel, as though the pull downward is the only truth that matters. But what they'll never say, what they may never know, is that some are born with the stars in their eyes. Some are built to leap even when there is no net. Some would rather break trying to touch the sky than spend a lifetime kneeling to what is safe. No, you'll feel it. In the quiet moments when no one's watching, when the world is still and the spark returns, that flicker, that impossible thing you're told to put away. And in those moments, you'll wonder, is it foolish to reach? To stretch for something that no one else sees? To climb a ladder that completely disappears into clouds? To follow a path with no name, no trail, and no map? But what they never say is that the map is made by the one who walks. The trail is born of footsteps, not instruction. And the moon, well, maybe that moon was never the prize. Rather, it's the decision, the declaration, the raising of the hand to the sky and saying, I don't know what waits around the corner, but I will go anyway. And as for them, they won't understand that. They won't see the stars you passed through or the galaxies you shaped with every setback. They won't feel the cold of the void you dared to enter or the warmth of that first light after darkness. To them, you missed. You aimed high and you missed. But what they misunderstand is that you became something in the process. Falling through the stars, it still means you touched them. It still means you left the ground. It still means you learned to fly. See, they'll write stories about people like you without ever realizing they once warned you not to try. Because it's easy to measure life by trophies. It's easy to count only wins. When truth be told, meaning is found in motion, in becoming, in reaching beyond what was and towards the infinite upside. And no medal can capture that. No applause can echo long enough to match the silence you broke just by beginning. You'll lose people. You'll shed skin. You'll bury old versions of yourself that begged you to stay. But with each step, you'll remember the moon was never promised, only the journey. So keep climbing. Even when they laugh, even when they don't get it, even when they turn away, even when the night offers no light back, climb. Because what they call failure, you'll know as transformation. What they label detour, you'll see as design. And one day, and that day will arrive, they'll look up. They'll see a light shooting across the night sky that they cannot explain. They'll call it lucky, they'll call it magic, they'll call it miraculous, but you'll know. You'll know there was nothing miraculous about it. It was the fire in your lungs, the shaking hands that still reached out, the tired feet that didn't quit, the dream you protected when the world told you to let go. So when they tell you to aim lower, smile. Let them. Because they never saw the stars you were dancing through. They call it failure when your body gives out. When you hit the ground, shaking, breathless. But what they don't see is that moment is sacred. It's where effort becomes art, where pain becomes proof. You collapsed, not because you're weak, but because you had the courage to go there. you touched the edge of yourself. And through that struggle, earned the right to rise anew. Last week, I got the opportunity to train with Eric. And although now I call Eric a friend, at the time, I knew of him merely as the trainer or engine behind some of the names in fitness and personal development that I looked up to the most. Right? The man silently behind the scenes pushes others to find more in themselves. One of my favorite examples being he is the spotter and trainer in the infamous David Goggins video when David's yelling, "Who's gonna carry the boats?" I refer to these people as Hamiltonian, as they're somewhat behind the scenes, right? But pulling strings and shaping reality as it appears on stage. No one wins alone, right? And Eric is that support for so many. Your win is his win. Your breakthrough is his breakthrough. And so when I was asked to train with him, it was an obvious no-brainer. Let's see how hard we can stretch things. Let's push some boundaries today. I show up. He introduces himself, explains a bit about the process, and says, Eddie, we're about to go on a journey. I want you to imagine you're in a race car. Pick a color. Okay, I say, certainly intrigued. We'll go black and teal. Great. Now, Eddie, I want you to picture someone you love riding shotgun with you. Can you do that? Sure. I close my eyes for a second. Got it. Okay, perfect. So, Eddie, when you are at your lowest point, when you're really fighting, I want you to imagine that person's face, and I want you to do it for them. Because we don't just grow and evolve for ourselves. We push and we stretch for those we love the most. Those counting on us, those depending on us. Got it. And note that I'm paraphrasing, of course, but he ends the intro with, what we're going to do today is earn our failure. And this little piece right here is what I saw as absolutely transformative. Right? We're going to earn our failure. He continues, Eddie, I've worked with some of the biggest names on earth, the fittest people on earth. All of them have failed. All of them. And that right there is the magic, the beauty. When we fail, we change. We become that much closer to the divine. When we earn our failure, we give ourselves permission to grow. When we fail, life begins. So today, this morning, how about we earn our failure? Let's go. So we stretch and jump right into the workout, beginning with what I'm guessing is 15 to 20 minutes of squats, jump squats, lunges, all lower body stuff. And, I think to myself immediately, this is my strength, right? I'm confident. Going back to the 4 years of rowing in college that has become to this day sort of a foundation for my physical abilities. Metabolic conditioning, no problem, right? At least that was the story in my head. But we lock in, start the intervals, and sure enough, while the confidence was great, I quickly realized that none of that mattered. After about 6 minutes, my entire body was screaming. Quads were spasming in active rebellion. Probably been about 10 years since I'd gone that long without a single momentary pause, without a break. And he's screaming the entire time, Eddie, let yourself fail. You've got this. Fail. In my mind, there was this defense mechanism without even realizing it. When my body was at the brink of failure, I would do these little bounces or pulses at the bottom of a hold to mitigate tension, or I would adjust slightly enough that the pain and the weight could be redistributed. I come from the school of, it doesn't matter how you get there, just figure out a damn way. And, there's certainly a time and a place for that. But the vulnerability, the nakedness of staying locked into something until you physically collapse and fall, that was tough. My mind desperately wanted to prevent failure every time it felt itself getting close. Every time it could feel the pulsing resistance getting stronger and stronger. If it weren't for Eric's reoccurring screams, "Let yourself fail, Eddie," I would have probably buried the notion as I attempted to adjust my way through the hell I was experiencing. Let yourself fail. Earn that failure. Gift yourself that failure. Again and again and again. Moved on to 20 minutes or so of core, straight abs, no breaks, no rest. And anyone who's done something like this probably knows that, sure, your abs obviously get worked, but kind of an unknown thing is that after minutes of flutter kicks and bicycles and leg raises, so on and so forth, your legs get heavy. And again, my brain said, no, not on my watch, right? Without even realizing it, I would attempt to flutter kick, holding up my legs with my hands, right? Refusing to let them hit the ground. That is until I heard the words, "Let them fall, Eddie. Let them hit the ground. Let yourself fail." And so I let go of control. I let them fall, and fall they did, giving me about a 3-second reprieve from the chaos before I gathered myself and entered the fight again. And again and again. I think I probably failed 4 or 5 times. But rising each time, collecting myself, reframing the experience, and carrying on. Segment by segment, exercise by exercise, we got through it. Finally, we stood up, sat against the padded wall in the gym and talked about the session, talked about life. And I quickly realized perhaps the line separating the two was finer than I may have realized. We don't give ourselves permission to expand until we earn failure in our lives. Until we travel out to the brink of who we are and let ourselves hit the ground. Until we carry so much weight that it ultimately levels us. Because every time we start again, not only are we a little bit stronger, but we begin to realize that if that was the worst case, that if I swallowed my pride, let it all come crashing down, and still I rose, still I asked for more, still I showed up, what can stop me? What out there is bigger than me? What out there is so scary that it can halt my upward trajectory? The challenge is, and always will be, finding the strength to let yourself, to not hedge, to not look for off-ramps, to not hold yourself up, but for a time, fully disassemble. Have you ever been driving and reminded yourself to relax your muscles? Let your shoulders down, loosen up your back. And you realize how tight you were, right? How you were holding yourself up. Deep inhale, and with the exhale, you intentionally relax. Let it all sort of melt. That tension we didn't even realize was there until it crossed our mind. I think the same thing is true when it comes to the vulnerability of failure. We often, without knowing it, want to shield or protect ourselves from it, right? The natural thing is to be safe. We are biologically designed for safety above all. But the thing is, in order to water the seed that is your infinite upside, you cannot be, quote unquote, safe. You can't stay in the middle, insulated from the chaos and turbulence of the outer edge. We must walk to the periphery of what we know, to the edge of who we are, and allow ourselves to fail, to earn that chance to gain strength and composure, to break down our worldview and self-image so that it can be rebuilt. I promise you, it's there. It's there for me, it's there for you. And it is the bridge connecting where you are now to where you can be. And so the question is not, how do we move forward while avoiding failure? The question is, how do we earn failure again and again? How do we reprogram our minds to see it as a beautiful necessity, a step forward? Falling while continuously standing tall and marching towards that horizon with trust and conviction, trust in the process and trust in ourselves. Because in a world where falling is scoffed at, right, looked down upon and considered a negative, only a few, a select few, a great few, see through it, find the strength to accept it and embrace it. And I think that's the question we're playing with here. Will you be vulnerable enough to let your legs surrender to gravity and your body hit the floor? In a world where biologically we want comfort and societally we're inclined to merely tiptoe through life, will you choose to earn your failure?
Thank you for this moment. Thank you for the Spirit. Thank you for the blood, the love, the strength, allowing us to connect, dive into the deeper connection with this.
I lost everything. And when you lose everything, God shows you what's real. Those words came from a good friend of mine. A man who walked away from the life he thought he was building, but not because he wanted to. He separated because, well, it all collapsed underneath him. The career that he'd worked so hard on, gone. A lot of the people that he trusted and relied on seemed to disappear. Certainty essentially devolved into chaos. He blinked his eyes and went from successful and on top of the world to homeless and on the streets of New York. Everything he'd built, gone. Everything he thought he knew, shattered. And although that seems like the end of a story, what it was the beginning of one. Because it brought about transformation, not only of his circumstance, but seemingly of his soul, right? This is not about someone just enduring or surviving, but it's like he awoke. Eventually seeing through the noise, false perception, through the performative layers that so many of us call life. And a few days ago in Austin, I asked him, hey, how do you walk so freely? How are you so unapologetically yourself, right? You say what you mean to an extent I've never seen. You don't tiptoe. You don't chase approval. How? And this is sitting across the table at breakfast. He's holding his coffee. Says, look, I've already had life take everything away. What's life gonna do? Take it away again? When you've been stripped down to nothing, you realize that most of what you feared losing was never real to begin with. And that really hit me. I don't know that old version of my friend, but I know the version sitting across from me at breakfast now, and I can only imagine what that process, what that pressure cooker felt like. But here's where it gets important for you, because his story is extreme. I'm guessing most people will never face the depth of loss he did. And let's be honest, we shouldn't have to lose everything to find clarity. We shouldn't need devastation to become free. What if we could learn the lesson from his journey without the extent of the tragedy? What if we could simulate that fire without having to burn everything down to ashes? See, that's the difference between waiting and creating. Tragedy forced my friend to wake up. But maybe you don't have to wait for life to burn it down. You can choose discomfort. You can manufacture suffering. You can create situations that challenge your comfort zone, that earn your confidence, that build the clarity he found without the collapse. It's like forging steel, right? You don't wait for the sword to break in battle. No, you temper it beforehand. You introduce it to heat and resilience, pressure, so that when the time comes, you are ready. If you want to grow, jump into the cold water. Say what you mean. Yes, even when it's awkward. Get up earlier than you think you can. Stand your ground when you'd rather nod, smile, and conform. Walk into the gym, the meeting, the room when every part of you wants to shrink or hide. Because the little manufactured battles, they become stepping stones. Each one proving to you that you are more than the voice of fear. Each one turning you into someone new. Talked about a moment recently about a kid standing on a rock ledge high above a lake. Summer day, his friends below, already laughing and in the water, but he's shaking, toes curled over the edge, mind racing, his brain, like any brain, I'm sure, scanning for disaster. What if I fall wrong? What if I hit something? What if it goes poorly? But standing still is its own prison. And in this situation, perhaps the only prison, right? And so eventually he jumps, and when he comes up for air, breathless, eyes wide, he isn't just relieved, he is alive. He opened himself up to let the light in, becoming something new on the way down. He met a version of himself that hesitation could never reach. And that's the path for all of us. You can wait for the storm, or you can learn to dance in the rain. You can wait for the loss, or you can strip away those things that do not serve you. You can float through life hoping for peace, or you can go to war with your fears and create it. Which brings to mind an old tale from ancient China, where a great philosopher would tell this story about a wealthy man who captures this bird and locks him in a golden cage, but feeds him the rarest, most extravagant seed, the best food, offered it everything it could want, everything except freedom. Day after day, the bird sat still, wings tucked in. People marveled at its beauty, but it never sang. Then one day, the cage was left open, and though that bird was weak from confinement, it flew away and never came back. And when asked why the bird would leave a life of luxury, the old man said simply, because to be free and hungry is greater than to be full and imprisoned. Only in the sky could the bird remember who it truly was, and that's what we're talking about, right? You're not here to be admired in a metaphorical cage, to be playing a role in someone else's story. You're not here to be acting out a part prescribed for you. You're here to fly, to live truthfully, to sing your song, even if it shakes the room. Freedom, it doesn't mean chaos necessarily. It means choosing what you give your energy to. It means protecting your time and honoring your energy and chasing what makes you feel alive and unapologetically cutting those things that don't. Because here's the truth. When you lose everything, life cannot take from you what you're willing to rebuild. And when you choose to give things up, the people pleasing, the lies, the masks, you gain something worth far more. Yourself. We're not here to tiptoe through life. We're here to run through it like we were born to, scraped knees, heart open, unshaken, to jump, to break, to rise again. Not as the same person, but as someone who knows what's real. We know what's possible. We know what's out there. The question is not, does it exist? The question is, will you choose it? Sometimes all that's required is you to give yourself permission to go. So I'm going to tell you a story about my light bulb moment here with this concept, because it's a good one, and helps paint that picture. So a handful of years ago, I was sitting at a bar with a friend of mine. At the time, he was a business partner, still a very good friend. We'd been working all day. I think we were watching a game or something like that. And we were talking about, when he started his first business. He's an older guy, about 20, 25 years older than me. Very accomplished, done some amazing things, and made some money along the way. And so I always, when I can, like to pick his brain and hear about the process. And he said, do you want to hear about the first big investment I made with my company? And I, of course, said, absolutely. I'd love to hear that. He says, okay. So long story short, just kind of starting out, 1 foot in the water. I know it's the right thing to do, but these things take time. There's a little bit of friction. And I've been watching this guy online who is, in a similar space, very just good on camera. Seems like he has it all together. Creates very good content, has a team. It was all the things I wanted. And so I inquired and, emailed, checked out his website, and I found out that he had this job shadowing program where you fly to his place, and you'd kind of just follow him for a day. You see his routines, how he runs his business, who's in his world, how he manages his employees, all this stuff. And he says, Eddie, there was a catch though. It was incredibly expensive. And at the time, I didn't have the money. So it was a very, very big decision. And when I say expensive, I won't tell you the number, but it makes me like twitch. It's a lot of dough. And the thing about this guy is that when his heart is set on something, he goes, right? So this is right on brand for him. He somehow scraped together the money. However he could, cleaned out his accounts, paid, took a flight across the country, showed up at this guy's place, and did the job shadowing. Saw how he ran things, interacted with him, got to chat, ask questions, and I'm like, well, how did it go? And he said, well, let me tell you, underwhelming is perhaps an understatement. It was just, when I say not what I expected, it unremarkable. The guy was disorganized, didn't have the grasp on things that he appeared to on camera when he scripted and things were, laid out in front of him, and just kind of fumbling around through life. And I couldn't believe my eyes. I'm sitting there after having spent all that money and flown across the country in disbelief. And so I listened for a little bit, and when he explains that, I said, man, I am so sorry. Like that's, that brings a tear to my eye. That tugs at my heartstrings. No one wants to hear that. And he said, Eddie, sorry. There's no reason to be sorry. Let me explain something to you. He's like, that money was the best money I'd ever spent in my life. Because I learned, quote, if that clown could do it, so could I. And man, that just hits. It's so funny to me how It wasn't information he needed at that point in time. It wasn't some secret script or idea or, you get the point. There's no underlying strategy that would have changed his life. What he needed was self-belief and a green light to go. And I can take that concept and inject it into so many phases of my life, and I know you on the other end of this camera can as well. So much of the time I think we're looking for the wrong things. I think it's that simple. We're looking for John Smith's strategy and approach, and we want to emulate how other people are doing it. We want these hidden details. We want the answer that's been, hiding in the weeds that's going to change everything, when what we really need is pure, absolute confidence in our own ability to get things done, to know that we can do it. Because the universe doesn't tell you that. As much as I wish that were the case, there's never a path that just miraculously opens up like Moses in the Red Sea. It's just not how the world works. Life is messy. It's disorganized. There's doubt around every corner. There's no exact formula. And the only piece that will carry you through it all is complete certainty that you can weather the storm, that you can handle it. That's the foundation that everything is built on. And when he said, if this guy can do it, so can I. Sometimes that's all it is. Those people out there, they're no better than you. They're not innately talented. They believed in themselves and they greenlit the journey. Fully committed. And, through trial and error and iteration, here they are. And the same thing is true with you. So think about that in your own world. Is there any area where you need to look around and just give yourself permission to begin? To trust that you can be the one. You can be the one to make the change, to create something new, to adjust and alter reality. You can do that. Again, that self-belief doesn't arrive in the mail. It starts looking directly at yourself in the mirror and giving yourself permission to begin. We don't always have the power to change what's around us, but we do have the power to change what's within us. We can't always stop the storm, but we can always find the calm in how we navigate it. Let's dive into that dance, the push and pull between acceptance and agency, between the things we surrender to and the things we shape. Because I want to show you how it all comes together. Here, in this place where earth meets water, where life whispers through the wild horses, and where the sun rises each morning to begin again. So close your eyes and visualize with me as I paint a picture of letting go, moving forward, and beginning again. Let me take you to a river that cuts through the desert like a ribbon of life. The Salt River, as it's called, where water meets earth and time slows to a gentle hush. This river, it's more than just water. At least to me, it is. It's a metaphor for the current of life itself, ever moving, ever flowing. And it speaks to us. That is, of course, so long as we pause long enough to listen. There's an ancient prayer that echoes here, a prayer born from the wisdom of generations past. It's referred to as the Serenity Prayer. It essentially states, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. But these words, they aren't just for quiet moments of prayer and solitude. They're a map for navigating the world, a blueprint for living life on your terms. They are a reminder that life is a river, where parts of it are calm, parts of it are wild, but all of it is always moving. And amongst many others, the Stoics understood this. They believed it to be a fool's errand to run up against the things we cannot change. Like trying to swim upstream in the raging current, we only exhaust ourselves fighting what was never meant to be fought. So, we learn to let go, to surrender. Not in weakness, but in wisdom. Because there's power in knowing where to yield and where to push forward. And as you venture down the river's banks, you just might be lucky enough to see wild horses. They don't fight the current. They move with it. Sometimes crossing it, sometimes pausing to drink from it. But they are a symbol of freedom, of the power that comes from understanding how to move with life, not against it. How to let the environment work for you. These horses embody the fact that there are always parts of life we can control. Our actions, our choices, our direction. We can decide when to charge ahead and when to stand still. When to let the river carry us and when to forge our own path. And the bow on all of this, the third leg of the stool, is that there is no better time to remember any of this than at sunrise. In the quiet light at dawn when the world is reborn. The first rays of the sun are like hope itself, gentle, unwavering, full of promise. A reminder that no matter how dark the night, that sun will rise. It always rises. So let this be more than a narrative. My hope is that you find it as a call to action. Where you look in the mirror and ask yourself, where am I fighting the current in my life? Where am I swimming upstream? What burdens am I carrying that I can set down if I simply accepted the things that cannot be changed or altered? And conversely, where can I find the courage to shape my own path? Like the wild horses weaving through the river's edge. That river in totality shows us that life is both constant and unpredictable. Those wild horses reveal to us our power to choose our course within that flow. And the sunrise, well, that sunrise is your invitation to begin again. Because every day you have a choice to surrender when needed, to fight where it matters, and to trust that like the river you will find your way. So let the things you cannot control wash over you like water off a stone. Focus on what you can control. Your mindset, your actions, your vision for the life you want to create. This is the dance between acceptance and agency. The art of living in harmony with what is and still simultaneously carving out life's possibility. As you stand on the riverbank, whether real or imagined, remember this. The river doesn't ask permission to flow. The horses don't ask permission to roam, and the sun doesn't ask for permission to rise. And neither should you. Step into the current of your life. Release what shouldn't be there. Shape what you can, and greet each new sunrise as an opportunity to begin again. This is your moment. This is your river. This is your life. When you look at the mountain, it's easy to be overwhelmed by its size, to let fear and doubt paralyze you. But what if I told you the summit is never reached in one heroic leap? It's conquered one quiet step at a time. One subtle movement into the abyss after another. It's not about the impossible. It's about seeing the impossible as what it truly is, shrinking it down, making it small enough to manage. So let's talk about taking the mask off of impossible and revealing what it is, those manageable pieces. And I've learned this truth, not in some grand lecture hall or because of years of school or the pages of a book, but in the echo of my own breath. Doing, creating, building out in the world, right? Growing a business, putting my body through difficult tests, putting my mind through the battlefield that is self-discipline, and essentially commitment to the promises I make to myself. And that's what I want to echo today, how, one, we are capable of way more than we can possibly imagine. So let's just get that out of the way. We're all operating at a fraction of what we could be doing. And two, it's never about the obstacle ahead, the size of what waits before us. It's how we assess and internalize and break down those obstacles. It is doable. Again, your mind just has to perceive it as so. No one leaps a marathon. As much as we wish we could when we're tired and worn down and hurting, but we can't. But what we can do is utilize what's around us in a way that helps us win. We can rig the game in our favor. And so here's a quick example that I wanted to share. I like to put myself in these circumstances because it's truly an exercise in taking these giant things and turning them into very real, practical roadmaps. A few days ago, I did an afternoon bleacher workout in an empty stadium in Phoenix, Arizona. Very simple, right? Sprint up the bleachers and then you walk down, recovering. As soon as you get to the bottom, you turn around, you sprint up again. And the goal was to do 30 of these, right? 30 sprints up, 30 walks back down. And like so many things, it's a cakewalk until it isn't, right? I remember hitting sprint 12 or 13, you start going, oh man, I better recruit the mind to start painting this picture as something fun and beautiful and exciting because the body wants to revolt. Right? You get that sort of mini panic that's like, bro, I don't know how long you can sustain this. It's just reaction, it's real. And at the start, standing there looking up at endless rows, the towering steps, the mind, you can't help but watch it, observe it, question, how can I possibly do this? 30 sprints up? That's a lot in this heat. It's a tall order. And on top of that, the hardest part is no one's around, right? I technically don't need to be there. Why not leave? Or why not do 20 instead of 30? What's keeping me committed to such a quote-unquote foolish pursuit? That, when I start engaging in suffering, is always the talk that goes on in my head, the negative self-talk, that whispering, again, you're not at gunpoint here, buddy. Walk away. But I think that's the secret of any great feat, right? Whether it's something as trivial as running up steps or, something as grandiose as starting a business, pursuing a degree, starting a family, raising kids, whatever it is, it's never accomplished all at once. It's never one single push, one massive effort. It's the ability to break it down, to divide it, to transform the colossal into manageable pieces. If you understand this, you possess a skill set that makes everything else in life doable. You're holding a key capable of opening any door. And on those stadium steps, I leaned heavily back into the games I used to play with numbers while running so many times in my past. I didn't think about 30 sprints. I thought about the first one, just one. I'd trick my mind into seeing less, into shrinking the impossible. One sprint, one effort. Then I'd reach the top, I'd smile because, well, the next one was the same, just one more.
Turn and go. Turn and go. 17.
One becomes two. Two becomes 10. The numbers grow, but the method remains. At 13, we're not even thinking about 30. That's crazy. Think about getting to 15. That's only 2 away. 2 sprints away. And then guess what? I'll be halfway. What a celebration. How amazing. What an honor. You're about to hit 15. Focus on that.
We're only 5 away from that. It's all you think about. It's all that occupies your mind. Anyone can do 5 more. 5.
And guys, I want to be clear. I understand the simplicity and seemingly trivial nature of this. I'm emphasizing it because I don't want you to dismiss it thinking, oh, this is just semantics, or oh, this is just how you talk to yourself. It's everything. It's giving yourself permission to win. It's unpacking the grandiose into the manageable. And that's why it's been so effective for me. I've learned to count in 5s, to count in 10s, to create milestones and markers along the way. Each one a small victory, a reason to keep going, which in and of itself is power. Right? It's like you create this little validation, you build it into your process so that you're going to bed feeling like a winner, because you are. It's not, oh, I don't have the mountaintop 8 miles away. It's another L for me. No, I took 3 steps today. I pointed out what they would be, I planned them, and I hit them. That's winning. Each one is a reminder that the summit is not some distant place, it's right here, in this moment, in this step. And see, in life, especially when we're going through our most difficult times, it's incredibly easy to get lost in the enormity of it all. The weight of the journey in totality can be paralyzing. That's true in the stadium, but it's just as true in life. We look at our dreams, our ambitions, the vast landscape of what we want to build, and we think, I'm not enough. It's too big, it's too much. I am one person in a very vast world. But let me tell you this. It's never too big when you expose it for what it is. It's never too much when you find the pieces that comprise it. Everything can be broken into small, manageable parts. Everything. After all, that's what they are made of. The tiny building blocks are what come together to create the enormity people see from afar. But you're not fooled. You know you're not climbing the mountain in one step. It's a bunch of micro steps, one then another and then another. In fact, it's not even really a mountain when you're on it. It's an assortment of little rocks. And I think about the times I've faced obstacles in my life. Projects that seemed too big or overwhelming, relationships that felt too complicated to fix, dreams that felt too fragile to pursue. The lesson of the bleachers, right? The lesson of one sprint at a time carried me through all of it. Building this media company, every single creation, every video, every story, thinking this could be the one. This will connect with people. This will change the trajectory of what I'm doing here. It allowed me to stay focused, one release at a time, one message at a time. Forget the larger-than-life aspirations. You can only focus on now. Life is the same as that stadium. The outcome is not guaranteed by our intentions alone. It's shaped by our approach, by our willingness to find a path that makes the outcome actually plausible. Not about erasing pain, but about making pain a companion. About turning the discomfort into an ally, part of the process, turning the task into a series of sprints instead of a single marathon. Never forget, anyone can do one sprint, right? And the fun part is 30 is just one 30 times. Anyone can say, do a wall sit for 15 seconds. Well, 2 minutes is just 15 seconds 8 times. Eddie, this is just semantics. Time is time is time. No, it's not. It's how your brain processes and manages what's in front of it. That's what determines whether you win or lose. Again, a lot of people I know have quit things out of frustration with how far away the finish line is. What they failed to realize is they shouldn't even be looking at the finish line. They should be creating benchmarks, hitting those little victories worth celebrating. Because when the time comes and they look back, they'll see a trail of success so pronounced that it'll be mind-blowing. That's how you win. Whether you're climbing stadium steps or building a dream from scratch, you win by shrinking the problem, by making it so small your mind can't find a reason to quit or be intimidated. Take a breath. Look up at that towering set of steps in your life and then begin one step at a time. You're not responsible for anything else besides that step. And as you know, anyone can take one step. So by refusing to sit in awe of the challenge before us, by pulling out its pieces and stacking them so that they become our foundation, well, that's how we win. That's how we defeat the impossible. By refusing to let it stay impossible. This is a story about doing that thing in your soul that you know you're called to do. There's a quote by Carl Jung. He says, "You meet your destiny on the road you take to avoid it." And the first time I heard that, I paused. Not because it was poetic, but because just like when anything meaningful hits you, it feels personal, like it was written for me. Describing chapters of my life that I hadn't quite closed. Here's a little pretext, about the way I once looked at the world. I used to think life could be outmaneuvered. That if I planned enough or calculated enough, if I stayed sharp enough, I could avoid the chaos. I could dodge pain. If I planned just right, I'd be able to skip all the hard parts. I used to think discipline and direction meant full control. But in so many contexts, they just bring about delay. Because what I feared never seemed to vanish when I ran from it. It would simply wait. It would follow. And eventually it would reintroduce itself. Not necessarily as a punishment, but as a mirror of sorts, calling for reflection. And here's the thing, we don't get to negotiate with the path. We either walk it or get dragged through it, because it always finds us. That's what destiny does. Now, don't mistake that for powerlessness. This doesn't imply that you don't have a say. In fact, you have more control than you can even imagine. The question is not whether the road exists. It does. The choice is in how you choose to meet it, You can lean in with open eyes and steady feet, or you can resist, delay, deny, until life in its relentless wisdom brings you back around. One path is painful, the other still hard, but builds you, right? One is friction, the other is fire, transforming you into something more. Destiny doesn't punish you, it just refuses to let you stay small. There's a story within a story here. When I was in the corporate world, I talk about the value that I got from that time in my life. I was fresh out of college, full of ambition. I was obsessed with the next title. I thought that success was about rising fast, about being seen, the role, the status, the corner office. Right? And there was, at the time, a VP that I worked under, and she used to tell me, Eddie, I see you being exceptional in learning and development. You have a gift for, helping people understand, see value, helping them grow. And at the time, I just did not want to hear it. I was so reluctant to agree, dismissed it. Not because I didn't respect her, she was a superstar of a human being, but because I had tunnel vision. Learning and development, that sounded soft, it sounded slow. I wanted to manage, to lead, right? To move widgets and metrics and, oversee a region of the country. Who cares about personal growth? Which, fate got the last laugh there. I ran, at least to the extent that I could, eventually left the industry. And wouldn't you know it, right? Years later, building my own brand, right? Leading a team of amazing people who, we all have the same mission of helping people grow and, make the most of their lives. It's not kind of what she suggested my skill set and value add was. It's exactly that. And I knew it because it felt good when I did it. I enjoyed it. But the ego said, no, you need to be managing the Northwest division, whatever it was. Managing operations. It's not where I was meant to be, right? It was meant to help people grow and teach and build and inspire. I didn't choose that path back then, but it chose me, and maybe it chose me before birth, right? Eventually, I found the courage to circle back to it. Just like Jung said, I met my destiny on the road I took to avoid it. That resistance, that detour, well, as you can imagine, it wasn't just my story, it's everyone's story. There's a pattern in every great myth, every story of transformation. It's called the hero's journey. Joseph Campbell mapped it out. And the hero begins in a very ordinary world, safe, predictable, familiar. He's incentivized by the things that most people in his world are incentivized by. His limitations are certainly worldly. Then comes the call to adventure, a challenge, a whisper, a truth that you can't ignore. But what happens next? Well, almost every time the hero refuses the call. For those Star Wars fans out there, Luke Skywalker, he didn't want to leave home, right? As a farmer on Tatooine. He wasn't ready to face the evil empire. He doubted himself. He resisted. He wanted more of what he knew. And the story of Jonah is similar. Someone mentioned this to me the other day. I don't know how many times Luke Skywalker and the story of Jonah are used in the same example, but first for everything. God asks him to go to Nineveh to speak, to change hearts. He says no. He gets in a ship and he goes in the other direction. But fate didn't take kindly to shortcuts. A storm came. The ship shook, and Jonah, amidst all this, was thrown overboard. He was swallowed whole by a great fish. alone in darkness, nowhere left to run. And that's where he met his truth. That's where he surrendered to his life's purpose, his mission. That's where the journey for him truly began. See, destiny does not ask us if we're ready. It simply arrives. And when we resist, we often find ourselves in the belly of our own fear, until we realize the only way out, as Robert Frost suggests, is through. Jonah eventually got it. Luke Skywalker eventually got it. And eventually, so do we. Because the refusal doesn't stop the story. It merely delays a transformation, your transformation. And the Stoics, they knew this as well. They spoke on it, wrote about it all the time. Marcus Aurelius wrote, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Seneca said, fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant. More or less, for the sake of our conversation, meaning you can run, you can hide behind logic, busyness, perfectionism. But destiny is not looking for your comfort. It's waiting for your commitment to step into that purpose, into that person you've known your whole life has been there waiting to be unveiled to the world. I look back now and laugh at how hard I tried to outpace my own purpose. But I needed to learn that avoidance, it doesn't keep you safe, it keeps you small. It keeps you playing in someone else's game, a spectator in someone else's arena, instead of thriving and becoming a superstar in your own, adding more value to the world and those around you than you can imagine. Your destiny, it's a lot of things, but it's never small. So I ask you, what have you been avoiding? What's the path that quietly calls your name? The one that feels right, but maybe demands of you a little more right now than you're willing to give. One that you say maybe later to every time the thought arises. Because it's waiting. And maybe it's not supposed to be easy. Maybe you're never going to feel ready. Maybe that discomfort is the signal, not a stop sign, but a sign to go. And embracing that is how you win. It's how you find peace. Not by dodging the road, but trusting it. Because when you finally step into that discomfort, when you answer the call you've been avoiding, you don't just find your destiny. You become it. He wasn't handed excellence. No silver spoons, no guarantees, no headlines written about his birth. No, he wasn't born into the record books. He wasn't carved into marble before he ever took a breath. He was an ordinary person. And that's what makes his story so sacred. Because when you peel back the layers, when you turn down the volume of the world and listen close, you hear something remarkable. You hear self-belief. He believed himself capable of extraordinary things. Not because he was instructed to, not because the world applauded. He simply decided it would be so. And that decision, that seemingly trivial, insignificant decision, it changed everything. You see, most people stand on the edge of their potential looking out. Yeah, they can see the horizon, but they let fear talk them down. They carry the weight of every doubt, every voice that ever whispered, "You can't." But not him. He was crazy enough to believe it was possible. And that kind of belief, well, it's dangerous. It upends the status quo. It questions what's deemed realistic. It burns the rulebook and rewrites the story. To believe in the face of failure, to bet on yourself when there's no applause, no confirmation, that's where legends are born. Because belief is the inflection point. It's where it all begins. And so he showed up every day. And I mean every single day. Not just when it was convenient, not when he felt inspired, but when the world was heavy, when the journey felt uphill, when no one was watching and the world screamed quit, when he woke up tired and lost and beaten down. He showed up. He ran through storms others simply refused to walk in. He climbed hills most people complained about from the base. He kept going, knowing that it wasn't easy, but that the meaningful things, well, they rarely were. He knew that extraordinary doesn't announce itself. It doesn't show up with lights and music and buzz and hype. It's quiet. It's disguised in discomfort, hidden in sacrifice. It's earned. One decision at a time, one step forward into the night. Every scar became a sentence in his story. Every setback a setup for something greater. He didn't run from the pain. And believe me, there are days where he wanted to. But he stood firm, he stood tall, and found within the chaos wisdom. Within the nothingness, value. Within the void, the path. And when the world questioned him, when they rolled their eyes, when they asked, "Who do you think you are?" he answered, rarely with words, but with movement, with progress, determination, with grit, with fire. Because he didn't need their permission. He'd given that to himself long ago. So when you look at his journey, know this. You're not different in your potential. You're different in your belief. Your moment won't come wrapped in clarity or applause. There won't be lights or a grandiose celebration. It will merely whisper, "Go." When you're afraid, when you're tired, when the odds don't favor you, and your only job in that moment is to be crazy enough to believe that it's possible. That's it. Not leap a mountain, not traverse an ocean. Believe that it's possible to show up when something deep inside wants to let go and hide, to speak when silence feels safer, to try again when failure is the only thing you've known for what seems like years, and to do so not because the world promised you anything in return. No, we get no guarantees in this game, none. But because something inside you whispered, this is who I am. So yeah, he was ordinary. But he believed himself capable of extraordinary things. And now he is the proof that the impossible bends for those willing to believe they belong in the arena. And my friends, not someday, not when it's perfect. It will never be perfect. Now, here, today, in this moment, be crazy enough to believe yourself capable of extraordinary things. There are moments in life that feel like endings. But what if they're simply the next version of you? A question that brings me right to the present moment. It's funny how something so small can undo something so sacred. This time, it's something as arbitrary as back spasms. A sharp pain when I breathe in that kind of moves different places in my upper left back to my lat shoulder. And at first it was, kind of an afterthought. It was like, okay, it'll heal. I'll be fine in a few days. After all, part of getting older and lifting is working around these things. You're never 100% perfect. But it's been almost 3 weeks now. And instead of healing, it's getting worse, right? It hurts to sleep, hurts to breathe. Even thinking about a pull-up feels like betrayal. And here's the part worth examining. I didn't think it would hit this hard, but, here I am, canceling workouts with friends, texting, hey, sorry, man, gotta skip today. That Murph workout I was so pumped to do, that ritual of strength and struggle, shared with people I respect, gone, postponed, forgotten by everyone except me. And this isn't just me whining, by the way. Like, I'm getting to the point here. I feel less anchored because for me, movement isn't just fitness. It's clarity, it's identity. It's the thread that really weaves the rest of my life together. And without it, apparently, that thread has started to unravel. My wake time shifted a little bit. Don't have to get up early to hit the fasted cardio, right? So morning structure softens. And you get the idea, that domino effect. Kind of stop tracking meals, skipping the cold plunge a few times turns into a few more, opening Instagram instead of the notebook. And the part of me that would roar forward with focus and fire, well, he's just a little quieter now. And I think that's the moment where the wolves come. Not suddenly, at least not in this case, not dramatically, but gradually, until they're everywhere. Until you look around and go, whoa. One sits on my shoulder whispering, you're losing it. Another paces in front of me. Momentum's gone, you'll never get it back. One hides behind false logic, right? Maybe this is just who you are now. Maybe it's easier to accept that. And the cruelest one of all, he just watches, says nothing, because he knows that I know. The context here is, for the first time in a long time, I'd finally felt healthy, like I'd mitigated and sort of removed myself from a lot of these things I've dealt with over the years. And that's what's been interesting to watch, right? That subtle erosion of self-belief, that part of me that's always said, dude, you've been here before, you'll get through this. Sometimes when you're just down and out, it feels hard to hear. But here's the inflection point, and I love to share these inflection points. This morning I sat alone on my balcony and I asked the question that matters most. You don't like the person you're becoming, the trajectory, you've taken in a very short period of time. It's like, do I let this moment consume me or do I become something new? Do I let it be a new evolution? Because this is no different than any other challenge in life. It feels big and personal and complex because, well, it's what's right in front of me now. But in reality, it's just another obstacle. Pain has a way of asking you who you really are. Not when everything's working. Not when you're strong, but when you're broken. When the routines fall apart. When your identity starts to slip through your fingers. And the wolves, they're not the enemy. They're the test. In a way, they are the invitation. A hand extended. And so this morning, I gifted myself the decision. Not to sprint, obviously. Not to lift, can't do that. But to face that circle of wolves with grace. To stop hoping they go away. And to meet their gaze and answer them. Yes, I'm in some mental duress, right? Poor me, life goes on. Yes, I'm losing momentum. Yes, in a way, holding off regression, but I'm still here. Blood in my veins, air in my lungs. And gonna rebuild from the inside out. Again, it's not like I just found out I'll never walk again, right? Perspective here. Because the wolf isn't some fantasy of me at my peak. It's who's already inside, who I become when everything's stripped away. When normalcy and routine and comfort are taken, who do you become? So if you feel them too, right? Those doubts, those whispers, if your momentum has been slowed, if your identity feels like it's dissolving, this is your moment. Not to run or hide, but to rise. To not lay down, shake your fist at the world and become the sheep, but to meet the wolves where they are. Life isn't about staying strong when it's easy. It's about becoming stronger when every part of you wants to disappear, when you're frustrated and annoyed, and all you see is off-ramps. Your North Star is covered up by clouds. That's when it matters. When the wolves circle, you become one. It's in your lowest moments. When quitting feels the easiest. When retreating or surrender feels the most intuitive. That life asks the most of you. That's when you want to hide. To point fingers, to collapse, blame and fear the wolves. But maybe that's when you're meant to become one. Life is admittedly a game of nuance and complexity. There's no one-size-fits-all roadmap here. But sometimes, to distill our most important crossroads into their simplest form sheds light on the road ahead. It helps us better understand what lies before us. After all, we don't lose ourselves because we misread the little complexities, because we got lost on the details. No, we lose ourselves when we're unable to see the most basic, simple, and seemingly obvious things. And so, let's take an axe to this tree. Let's break the complex down. Let's examine our darkest moments, our most challenging trials, when we hurt the most, when life brings us to our knees, when we feel the wolves circling. After all, that's when we're most inclined to become the sheep. It's easier to shrink, to blame the seemingly bloodthirsty beasts waiting for their chance to take everything you have left. Drawn in by your momentary weakness, they know this is the invitation they've longed for, free dining at your expense. Oh, how every instinct in these moments resonates with being the victim. How intuitive, right, to lay down and want to shake your fist at the world. But what if? What if these moments called you to do one thing? Not bow down to the universe and loathe the wolf, not fear the sharp teeth, nor the glowing eyes piercing through the night, but rather find it within yourself to rise up and become one. What if it wasn't a threat? No, not at all. What if it was an invitation, a whisper? Hey, you know that part of you buried deep down? That beast in slumber, the one who's been dormant for perhaps too long? The one who doesn't take no for an answer? Who sees the world not as a collection of steel bars restricting their every move, but a playground? One who expects turbulence, who sees the obstacles not as a problem, but as a reminder that you are right where you need to be. That lives inside you, with all its strength and courage, all its fight and resolve. When you feel the wolves circle, don't collapse into that part of you treading water on the surface. Dig deep. Descend to the depths of yourself and reemerge as one of them. Fight fire with fire. See, sometimes life calls on you to take shelter. This is not one of those times. Step out into the world, into the storm, into hell, and carve something beautiful into the chaos. Will it be easy? No, of course not. That's the whole thing. When we're in pain, anything but surrender is counterintuitive. But that's why the ascent is transformational. Start with the premise that it's not a matter of if the wolf inside of you exists. It's whether you can collect yourself and choose to be him over the sheep. Can you tolerate the sharp pain of transformation in exchange for the slow, dull, chipping ache of surrender? When the wolves circle, and if they aren't now, my friend, they will. A life fully lived is never void of them. Accept the call to transcend life as it's currently lived. Let the sharp teeth be a reminder that you can cut through the haze of doubt. Let the eyes be a reminder that you can see through the now and visualize the ideal. Let the howls be a reminder that your soul cries out for more. that their moon is in fact your moon, and what's available to them can belong to you. When you want most to accept the role as sheep, when you want most to lay down, to tip your cap and call it a day, that is your moment. To not just endure, but to dig deep. To step outside yourself. To find light in darkness, to become the way, and to be more than you have ever been. Greatness is not this wonderful, esoteric, elusive, godlike feature that only the special among us will ever taste. It's something that truly exists in all of us. That's a quote by Will Smith, who's had his ups and downs and everything in between, but funny enough, that just makes his message more integral to the theme here. Everyone has the opportunity to reach out and touch greatness. I believe that with all my heart. Which begs the question then, why do so few ever cross that threshold? Well, check this out. Building something meaningful, in my mind, is the same thing as a run uphill. It can be lonely, exhausting. You see nothing but the dirt road in front of you. It's bleak, very bleak. Until you reach the summit and are gifted a view so stunning that you're reminded why you hung in to begin with. Why you battled every step. The sun, the sweat, your beating heart, your body screaming to stop. The visuals go from dirt to stunning 360-degree sunset mountain views in what seems like an instant. But how many hold on until that moment occurs? See, it's a decision, not divine intervention. When you feel like letting go, it's not that life has let you down. It's that you've not yet reached the summit that will act as your on switch. Life is darkest before dawn for a reason. You have to really want those things you say you do. As destiny is both an extended hand and a gatekeeper of sorts. I was recently talking to a friend of mine. In the middle of building a company. It's been a journey. And right now, he's in that so-called valley of despair. He is running directly uphill. He's had a few promising, life-changing deals in the palm of his hand that fell apart at the 1-yard line, right? It's like he's there. He's so close. But look, it doesn't matter how mentally tough you are. Practicality always comes knocking at the door. How long can you sustain this? It will whisper. You have a wife and children. Are you being reckless? What will your family think? What will your friends think? This is too lonely. You're having panic attacks. You're sick with stress. And he's telling me all this, and I'm like, preach, man. Like, I know the feeling. Then he said something that cut through me. He goes, Eddie, why is it that when you need people to be there for you the most, they're nowhere to be found? When you're at your lowest, and support and love and reassurance would be worth more than gold. When all you want is to be told everything will be fine, why is there silence? And the pain in his voice, it almost made me choke up. You can tell he's just fighting demons. And my God, isn't that the truth? Right? The greatest victories are attached to the loneliest of times. How often do we hear, don't stop, believe in yourself, keep going? all critical messages. But without the context, what's their value? Why? Why do they matter to begin with? Well, because bringing things into the world before they exist is excruciatingly lonely. No one understands your vision. And the curveball is, it's not their fault. How could they? The frustration of being the only one who understands is the cost of admission. Don't stop. Why? Because every ounce of rationality in your body knows this feels like beating your head against a wall, and it wants to mitigate pain. Who cares about the long term? Believe in yourself. Why? Because waking up morning after morning with what seems like nothing to show for your time and energy and sacrifice is a devastation few will ever get. Keep going. Why? Because every off-ramp starts to look like its own little paradise. Old ways of living, safe jobs, routines, and patterns, they cry out for you to return. That's why we manufacture belief. Not because it's cool to write mantras in Sharpie on the bathroom mirror. It's not an Instagram play. It's because if you are not there for yourself, if you lose sight of your why, life merely collapses around you. Period. If you don't green light each day with the top of the mountain in mind, it's over. And man, I just sat there with it for a second. After a few seconds go by, responded, you have to depersonalize this because it's not about you. And what an odd thing to say, right? A friend of mine going through it. But hear me out. People only believe what they see, even people close to us. And if someone walked up to me with no proof of anything and said, Eddie, I have a $10 million business in my head, which funny enough happens more than you might think, you can't do anything but smile and say, hell yeah, go get them. Right? Because every innovation starts out as a concept. But the reality, as we all know, concepts don't put money in the bank. It's not about you. It speaks to human nature. This is what building something feels like. Oh, and remember, when you connect the dots, when things start taking off, and my friend, if you hang in there, they will, many of those same people will be right back beside you, like nothing ever happened. Like they just fast forwarded through the hell you walked through, and instinctively, maybe you'll take that personally. It will feel cheap and fake and annoying. But again, it's how the story goes. It's life in the big city. The ones who are actually there through thick and thin, which I'm sure you can count on one hand if they exist at all, they're the exception, not the rule. They are worth more than gold. Everyone else are just humans being humans. This is your transformation. It's your undertaking. This gauntlet, my friend, is for you and you alone. I had someone recently help me out with the channel, right? Make some thumbnails, which is the little picture you click to watch a video. And the idea is you make them and then you test them against thumbnails that already exist, like book covers. Which ones incline people to click, right? And the vast majority of the ones he made, quote unquote, lost. They underperformed compared to the thumbnails that were already existing on the channel. And he's like, man, I spent half a day on this. This is devastating. I feel like a loser, like I'm wasting my time. And I'm like, brother, try 7 years of this stuff, right? It's not personal. Nothing works until it does. This is the cost. You move forward relentlessly until something hits. See, I've walked down that road, and not because I'm a hero or a badass for continuing on. Anyone can. But that's the thing. Anyone can. And there are days where I wake up numb and sad and frustrated, you bet. Where I become disillusioned, where things aren't happening fast enough. But what do? You collect yourself. You remember how incredible it is to get to be doing this to begin with. To be adding value to amazing people all over the world with unrealized dreams and untapped potential. You tell yourself that it could theoretically all end today if I wanted to. Could go back to something safer and easier. I'm not in prison. But I'm choosing this. Trading comfort for impact, for upside. When I'm in those so-called valleys of despair, I remember why I signed up. The category of greatness I'm aiming for. You think that's free or easy? No, life is trade-offs. The best things find themselves attached to the highest price tags. Never forget that. So when you find yourself in those moments, I need you to grapple for perspective. I heard Hormozi recently describe these moments as the inflection point that would drive most away. Right? He says when he feels like that, he reminds himself most people wouldn't endure or sustain this. Most people pack it up right here. They don't want the stress or anxiety or uncertainty. So congrats, you were just gifted an opportunity. Make the decision to be different. We started with the Will Smith quote, so let's end with one. He says, make a choice of what you want, who you want to be, and how you're going to do it. The universe will get out of your way. So once you decide, commit, advance relentlessly. Sure, you're signing up for responsibility. You're signing up for chaos, for unknowns, but once you decide, you're also signing up for the greatest adventure of your life. And given those options, I'll take the upside. I'll take the possibility. I'll take the hill. Nothing is ever broken beyond repair. Nothing's too far gone to be rectified or optimized. The question is whether you're willing to identify the requirements to fix it and then intentionally walk down that path of recreation. Matthew McConaughey said, "Life is not fair. It never was. It isn't now, and it won't ever be. Don't fall into the trap, the entitlement trap of feeling like you're a victim. You are not. Don't ever think your situation, no matter how dire, cannot be remedied, can't be fixed, adjusted, that it's not a stepping stone to something beautiful. You always have that control. Always." I'm going to use the body as an example again. Not because I think physical fitness is the only thing, but because I think it is the perfect metaphor for life. I think if we understand physical resilience, grit, and persistence, we can handle anything the external world presents to us. I can't even articulate how at one point I was 1000% convinced, I was positive that I'd never be able to lift weights overhead again. My shoulders were just that bad. But chiropractors, body work, stretching, nutrition, supplements, sauna, all these things, in over a year since that journey began, I'm seeing progress like I've never imagined. Despite the occasional flare-ups and injuries from time to time, but that's, we'll chalk it up as life. I'll never forget my buddy saying to me, dude, you're not special. This isn't an Eddie curse. Millions of people have shoulder issues all over the world. Just do what you need to do to fix it. Or a similar conversation talking with my bodywork specialist, Shazzy. She's incredible. And just the confidence and reassurance to be like, oh, okay, your back hurts when you breathe. Roger that. Let's move a few things around. Let's get some blood flow to the aggravated spots. You'll be up and running in no time. When you're in these little valleys, you start thinking they're forever. When in actuality, they're a minor setback. You work on it until it's resolved, and maybe it's 95% resolved or 80% resolved, whatever, fine. But you can get to a place where it's manageable, where you can work around it. My friend and one of my fitness coaches, Justin, said, keep taking the supplements. Stay on your vitamins, keep walking, keep doing your plunging, your sauna, because when this turns around, and it will, if you maintain, you'll feel like you're shot out of a cannon. It'll be way easier to get back into rhythm. And just that reframing of, the temporary nature of what I'm going through, looking at it as truly a bridge to the other side, is everything. That's what was so powerful, the implication that this, just like anything else, is a storm, and all storms pass. So prepare yourself for the sunny skies, even amidst the chaos. And the idea is the same thing here goes with business. It goes with the arguments or the times we fall out with loved ones. It goes with creating or sharing your art on social media and not getting that positive reaction right away. It goes with feeling stuck in your career. The dead end. But everything is fixable. Momentum is always one move away, even when we don't know exactly what the answer is. Because one step away from the wrong thing starts the journey. Moving away from where you shouldn't be opens up space for a new story, a new reality to take shape. In nature, forest fires seem like utter destruction, right? But ecologists know that many forests need the fire. That heat cracks open pine cones, seeds sprout, and the land is reborn greener and more vibrant than ever before. Fire doesn't destroy. It creates new conditions for growth. Even though from the outside in, something about that process just seems innately sad, disturbing even. So much beauty gone, so much change taken away, never to be the same. But in death, forged by flames, life creates space for the next chapter. Now, I've been in that spot plenty of times, where you can only see the ashes and smoke. You can only feel the gaps in your life, the overwhelm. I know that pain. But I think the prospect that your turbulence is a forever thing is what hurts most. The pain of thinking about the delta between your current situation and the ideal, holding on to what's gone or missing, that spot is where the pain is. It's why understanding the power of moving in the right direction is everything. It's why when you know there's a solution, even when it's not resting in the palm of your hand, that is enough. Enough to begin, enough to initiate change. The phoenix is a mythical bird that dies in a burst of flames and is reborn from its ashes. It symbolizes regeneration and transformation, pointing to the truth that nothing is ever really lost. It's simply a precursor to rebirth. Everything is setting you up for the solution. Everything. So when you look around and see that combination of immobility and despair, I need you to remember, you're one step away from a new reality entirely. From transcending the ashes around you and moving higher than you've ever been. You are not stuck or chained or tied to what was. No, the world is yours to build anew. If you can't see the path now, if it doesn't make sense, fine, just go. Let the answers materialize as you walk the path before you. Because in this world, everything, and I mean everything, is fixable. They say the question is half full or half empty. But what if the real question is, what are you willing to pour into it? Every setback, every quiet morning, every passing doubt, all chances to choose what fills you. Today isn't about what's missing, it's about what's possible. The cup is here, the choice is and always will be yours. You see this cup? It's more than water. I think it's a metaphor for everything I'm trying to build. Half full, half empty, both are true, but neither really defines what's possible. They're prompts. Or maybe it's just a cup. A moment that doesn't really mean anything. Are you sure you're not just looking for signs in the quiet? Trying to convince yourself that there's more here than there really is? Maybe. But isn't that the point? To find value where others see routine. To see the half-empty cup and ask, what can I pour into it next? Take business. A lot of us can relate. That client who walked away last month, I could call it a loss. In fact, most probably would. But I could also see it as a chance to refine my vision, to depersonalize it, and create something so good they can't ignore it next time. It's not the easiest thing, but there's so much value there. Yeah, well, maybe it's just proof that you're falling behind. That the world is moving faster than your ideas can keep up. How do you know this is refining and not just stalling or wasting time or procrastinating? How do you know you're not pouring into something with no bottom? Well, I don't know, and you never could. But I've seen what happens when you don't try. When you cling to what worked yesterday instead of asking what could work tomorrow. The new day, the dawn, the opportunity. I'd rather risk another half-empty cup than never taste what's possible. Just like with relationships. There's love, the relationship that ended. But sure, I could see it as proof of failure, of not being enough. That would be easy to do, and in fact, most would. Or I could see it as a lesson in becoming more, a clearing for something new, someone new who meets me where I am now. Or maybe you're just rewriting the story to soothe the sting. Band-aids on bullet wounds. Maybe love isn't waiting for you around the next corner. Maybe you're carrying the same old patterns forward. There's no difference between now and yesterday, who you were and who you are. Is it really a lesson, or is it the same heartbreak wearing a different name, a new mask? Well, even if it is, isn't that life? Patterns broken not by hiding from them, but by meeting them head on? The cup only stays empty if I stop believing it can be filled again. Then it's just a numbers game. You have to keep your head up. Same thing with the social life and friendships, the drifting away of some I honestly thought would be around forever. I think back and sometimes it hurts. I get this feeling in my stomach of just sadness. It used to feel like failure. But now, I think maybe it's a sign to go deeper, to align with people who lift me up just as I lift up them. It's clearing out the minutia to find alignment with the people in my world. Yeah, well, maybe you're just different, too different. Maybe it's not them drifting, maybe it's you not getting it. Incapable of meaningful relationships. Maybe connection was never meant to last. No, not for you. Or maybe it's meant to evolve. Like the cup, emptied so it can be filled again. New conversations, new laughter, new stories I haven't even imagined yet. Just like in my fitness world with my body, the miles I run in silence, the weights I lift when no one's around, the sweat that speaks louder than words. Some days it feels like a battle I'm losing, but every push, every lift, every breath is a quiet promise that I'm still here and I'm still fighting. There's no time to view the empty space or the negative. Yeah, but aren't you tired? Doesn't it feel like a losing race? The reflection in the mirror, it never seems to match the effort you give. It always lags, doesn't it? Be honest. It's not about the mirror, it's about the ritual. It's about refusing to give in. The empty cup is not weakness, it's a chance to pour one more time, one more rep, one more sunrise. Don't you get that? That's what matters. The vessel, the cup, it screams opportunity. You always have an answer. You always find some silver lining. But isn't that just a way to avoid the truth? You're running. You're rationalizing. You're coping. Isn't it that maybe, just maybe, some cups were never meant to be filled? Sure, it's possible. But again, let's go to the theme here. I'd rather try again and again than let dust settle in the bottom. I'd rather live for the upside, for the chance, however small, that this next pour, right now, this next move changes everything. You are always one decision away from a totally different life. And what if you're wrong? What if this upside you're chasing never comes? Again, back to the point, it may never come. But I'll know I didn't die waiting. I didn't let doubt chain me to an empty cup forever, because even if it's empty now, it's still here. And that means possibility. Possibility. I used to believe in that too. Before the setbacks, before the half-finished dreams, before I forgot how to see the cup as anything but empty. Then let's remember together. Let's see the emptiness not as an end, but as the start of something new. Because the truth is, and I need you to remember this, most mistakes can be reversed. Most wrong turns can be remedied, turned around. And even if we don't get it right the first time, we can always pour again, try again. We can always rise again. Most people don't run out of time, they waste it. And not in big dramatic ways, but in the little yeses to things that don't matter. Simplicity isn't lack, it's clarity. And when you finally choose what to carry, life stops feeling so heavy. See, simplicity, it's not only ideal, but it's required, imperative. It is oxygen to the beating heart that is your life. Without simplicity, we are blind. And when we're blind, we lose our grasp on that precious intentionality. And before we dive in, I want to start with the story of the Mexican fisherman. The reason being is because in its most basic form, it shines a spotlight on the power of intentionality, of identifying what matters, pointing that compass, and then removing everything else. It exemplifies a life of freedom. So we'll start with the businessman, standing on a pier one day in a little coastal village, when a small boat with just one fisherman docks below. And inside that boat were several large fresh fish. The businessman sees this and he walks down. He compliments the fisherman on the quality of his fish and asks, "Hey, how long did that take you to catch those?" The fisherman replies, "Not very long." Businessman asks, "Well, why didn't you stay out longer and catch more?" The fisherman explained that he had enough to support his family's immediate needs. "But what do you do with the rest of your time?" the businessman asks. The fisherman smiled and said, "Hey, I sleep late, fish a little, play with my children, take siestas with my wife, Maria. I stroll into the village each evening where I sip wine and play guitar with my friends. I have a full and busy life." And the businessman kind of scoffed hearing that. He says, "Look, I have a Harvard MBA and I can help you. You should spend more time fishing. With the proceeds, what you can then do is buy a bigger boat. And then with the proceeds from that, you can buy several boats. And eventually you're going to have a fleet of fishing boats." And he goes on and on. Instead of selling your catch to a middleman, you can sell directly to the processor. Eventually you could open your own cannery or packaging center. You could control the product, processing and distribution. You'd move to a bigger city and then a bigger city, eventually a central hub like New York and Paris where you're expanding your enterprise. The fisherman goes, "Okay, how long would all this take?" The businessman says, "About 15 to 20 years. "And then?" asked the fisherman. The businessman laughed. "Well, that's the best part. When the time is right, you would sell your company and you'd become very rich. You'd make millions." "Millions? Then what?" asked the fisherman. "Well, then you could retire. You could move to a small coastal village where you would sleep late, fish a little, play with your kids, take siestas with your wife, spend your evenings drinking wine and playing guitar with your friends." The fisherman, still smiling, looked up and said, "Well, isn't that exactly what I'm doing already?" Now, the beauty of this story is that it's not hard to understand, right? We make our lives unnecessarily complex, forgetting or losing sight of what truly matters. The idea is not to let life slip by running a rat race that's, you're indifferent to, or playing someone else's game, overlooking the beauty and power of the present day, the moment. But that is impossible without having clarity, living with intentionality. When we understand what we want, we can then remove the things that we don't. It's that simple. If the fisherman in this story, this is a thought experiment, if the game of wealth generation was everything to him, if he loved it, if it lit him up and inspired him, then we have a very different story on our hands. If he wanted to go build an enterprise, then it's amazing. Take the businessman's advice and go get it, brother, right? Scale this thing. Trade some of that time with your friends and family for shaking hands and iterating your process and expanding your reach, but clearly that's not what he wants at all. That beautiful life that the businessman describes as obtainable later can be obtained now, if you're clear and intentional. So, the fun part. How can we be more intentional? How can we make things more exciting, invigorating, beautiful, and clear? How can we remove distraction and invite in the stuff that makes us want to jump out of bed in the morning? Well, we decide on our North Star and let go of the rest. We delve into purpose and say goodbye to the pointless routine and obligation, all of it. Swing by swing, we take our axe to the tree of unnecessary distraction and complexity. So here are some things we can and should let go of in order to obtain simplicity and intentionality in our lives, so that we, like the fishermen, can live lives conducive to what matters most. First, let's let go of the expectations of others. And I'm sure you immediately know what I mean. That idea you have in your head of what the world thinks you should be. Doing things because you think you're supposed to. So-and-so told me this is what success looks like. This will mean I'm important or valuable or interesting. Emerson said, in a world that is constantly trying to make you someone else, to be yourself is the greatest accomplishment. It's hard to stay the course, to trust your vision, to march to the beat of your own drum. That will always be true. But it becomes real, it becomes doable when you release the external pressure. What the world thinks is not your problem. Trust your ability to add value your way, to bring your own story to life. They don't understand, but again, them understanding is not your responsibility. And also, as sort of a subtle irony, they will understand someday. It's just that the road to someday has to be protected from the externalities and held dear. Next, let go of the things you do without a reason for doing them. Huh? Eddie, what do you mean? There's always a reason. Sure. Maybe I should put it this way. The things you do that don't impact the categories that matter to you most. Right? If you had to pick 2 or 3 things that meant everything, that were the most important, and then, before you went to bed at night, audited your day, thought about everything you did that day, between the people you talked to, messaged, places you went, content you consumed, food you ate, how much of that would point directly at those things that matter? How much of it could be directly connected to what's most important? See, I try incredibly hard to be intentional about this, and I'll tell you what, I'm amazed by how much stuff still sneaks onto my schedule that does nothing for me, directly or indirectly. I can't even imagine if I was operating blind or not thinking about this. So be intentional about what you do and how you spend your time. One of my favorite ideas on this topic comes from the book Boys in the Boat, about some college rowers. And the idea is simple. If something makes the boat go faster, they'll entertain it. If it doesn't, they will not, right? It brings them clarity. That simple dichotomy clears up everything. It positions the boat to succeed. It's always front and center. And that's how you should be with what matters to you. The next thing you should let go of is overconsumption of knowledge. And this one's kind of sneaky, because to learn is important, right? To learn is to grow, and to grow is to fully live. I'm not advocating for ignorance. I'm not suggesting don't read, don't learn, don't consume. There's nuance here. So follow me for a second. What I am suggesting is that we often allow overconsumption to take the place of action and learning through doing. I'm suggesting that the best way to change things, to make progress, to bend reality, is to step out into the world without the answers. It's to go. As I once heard Joe Polish say, you can't hire someone to do your push-ups for you. Sometimes there is no mentor, no book, no lesson that can give you as much value as life itself, as mistakes, as trial and error, attacking life. Just like water is critical to sustain life while simultaneously possessing the ability to drown you and end yours, A book, a YouTube video, a podcast can plant seeds in your head to grow towards a life of infinite possibility, but they can also become the steel cage that keeps you in one place, looking out at folks less educated, less prepared, and less equipped, building the world around you because they had the courage to attack it. And lastly, leave behind the illusion of fun, the excess partying to fill a void. You know, when I was a kid, angry in my kitchen that I couldn't go down the street and play with my friends at Kyle's house because of a family dinner, I was told, Eddie, right now you have a fear of missing out, but fun will always be there. If you want fun, there will never be trouble finding it or going back to it. Right? The people in the kitchen right now, you'll see as time goes by, they are what matters. And obviously I'm paraphrasing, but I never forgot the message. And it's been true. If I ever wanted to have a beer or watch a game, there is a 100% chance that I'd be able to figure that out, right? It's not challenging. But saying no to the partying and the beer and the girls and the distraction, try that. It's a lot harder, but simultaneously necessary to do anything significant in your life. If you can let go of the useless distraction when it's time to build, time to walk towards what matters most to you, you will experience freedom like you cannot believe. And so, what happens when you push all these things aside? When you strip life down to its simplest form, to its essentials? Well, you find yourself lighter. You find yourself able to climb that staircase with a little more ease, a little more pace. As you elevate, you become more free, more powerful. The sunset will be just a little more significant because it will feel like your sunset, as if God placed before you a little sign, a little piece of reassurance. It's the universe saying, hey, I know. There were so many off-ramps available to you. So many detours you could have taken. Plan B, C, D, and E. Yet here you are. You stayed true to yourself. You stayed committed. You didn't have to, but you did. And you should be proud of that. You should be proud of yourself because I sure am proud of you. In a world constantly trying to make you someone else, you didn't just stay yourself. You used your reflection. You used your power. You used your authenticity to set your soul and the souls of those around you ablaze. Excellence comes down to what you do before the applause. What's more counterintuitive than putting something out into the world and hearing nothing? Silence, only crickets as a response, and then smiling to yourself as you depersonalize that underwhelming outcome and start planning your next masterpiece. Because I'll tell you, it's a special kind of hell. Or at least it feels that way. It may actually be closer to a purgatory of sorts. A toll that must be paid. A fee that's required. Since childhood, we're taught to see action and outcome as this immediate cause and effect relationship. I don't know about you, but very rarely did I hear, congrats, you just watered the seed that will bear fruit in 6 years. No one says, be patient. Greatness must compound, and you just took a small step forward. No, it's more subtle than that. a long game, a commitment to evolution over time. Can't be purchased, must be earned. And the road through the dark, murky forest to validation, well, it's a demanding one. It's a treacherous pursuit, materializing over time and certainly not delivered in the mail. Oh, those moments where we love the applause, perhaps even crave it. Some reassurance. No. You're stacking W's in your mind. Your audience is one. Your support group is the reflection in the mirror. Did you take a step forward today or not? And if you did, make sure you also take a bow, because that, my friend, is your victory. You know, people have plenty of theories for the hardest part of doing something meaningful, bringing something into existence that doesn't already exist. And I'm sure there are thousands of different right answers, but for me, it is the loneliness. And not necessarily in the traditional sense. Like, there were always great people around me. It's that unless you're in it, it's hard to understand. It's hard to relate, right? It's hard to share with someone that you just worked a 16-hour day and you're more broke than you were before the sun came up. You still have no idea if this is gonna work. And you look out the window, the world seems to be buzzing around you. And in your head, things seem so much simpler out there, so much easier for everyone else. That whole delayed gratification thing, you know, it seems so logical on paper. It makes so much sense in psychology books. And I'm no psychologist, but I'd guess that, you know, based on the sheer pain it creates, we aren't necessarily wired for it at such extreme levels. How far can you crawl through the desert without finding your life-saving resources? Without getting what you're looking for, navigating mirage after mirage after mirage. Well, it turns out you can crawl through the desert for a very long time. So one of my favorite mantras, when you think you're done, you're actually only at 40% capacity. We can endure so much. This is when life becomes not what is the gap between where I stand and my dream, but as Dan Sullivan has said, where is the gain? Look how far I've already come. Look what is within my control. Today, I have the power to take one small step forward. And I can promise you that's exactly what I'm going to do. And how beautiful it is watching those little steps accumulate over time. The imaginary is made real, not by a snap of the fingers, but it's derived from the sound of your foot making contact with the ground over and over again. 10,000-foot view. Is this hard? Yeah. Look at the distance to be traveled. But if the mindset is dialed, if the mentality is right, if we step up and focus only on what is within our control, is it hard? No. Because anyone can take life one day at a time. This is perhaps a reminder to think less and step more. To lock into the target and go. To take your chisel to the marble and sculpt away. I'll never forget reading the book Unbroken, when the main author, an American captured by the Japanese in World War II, endures a hell unimaginable. Moved from POW camp to POW camp, tortured, taken to inches of his life. But day by day, he finds a way. And when he's finally captured and he looks back at all of it in totality, he is astounded at what he's overcome. He says, I don't even know if I can do that again, right? Because from the outside in, it's insurmountable. It's a mountain too high to climb. But day by day, we are gods. when what's in front of you is the only monster it can be slayed over and over and over again. We are manufacturers of the unseen, architects of value, which when you look at, value is directly correlated to how rare something is. Greatness, excellence, success in an endeavor, they are coveted and rare because for many, moving forward without that applause, it's too daunting a task. Performing for crickets is too taxing on the ego. An unknown with no guarantees, it induces anxiety like oxygen to a flame. So what? What's the play? What are you going to do? Can you clap loud enough for yourself to appease the whisper in your head? Can you be your own source of strength and validation? Can you show up for you? Because here's what I say. I say when silence is loud, let your vision be louder. When people doubt you, don't take it personally. Treat it with grace. See, you're just already at a party the rest of the world hasn't arrived at yet. You're not crazy, you're just early. Okay, and maybe a little crazy, but thank God, because the innovators, the makers, the doers, the change agents and authors of reality, they're all a little crazy, but they have to be. If one were merely pragmatic, they'd stop performing without that applause. That's the practical thing to do, after all. But you're not here to be pragmatic, you're here to be great, and that's a different game altogether. Of course they'll doubt you, that's the practical move. But remember this, pragmatism is never celebrated, ever. No, not like excellence, not like those with the courage to march to the beat of their own drum, to point their ship straight towards horizons of their making. When you don't hear the applause, take a breath and make your own. The goal is not to take over the world in 24 hours. It's to set goals for yourself and hit those goals. It's to perform for that audience of one. If you can do that religiously, if you can show up for you, everything else falls into place. Everything else makes sense. So go out into the world and be crazy. Crazy enough to go where few before you have dared. Crazy enough to construct your own anxiety for the sole sake of conquering it. Crazy enough to see castles in the air when the rest of the world sees only ghosts. Most perform for the audience, but I think it's time for you to be your own standing ovation. To watch as the roar and thunder of your own applause transcends space and time. It's not whether the crowd rises to their feet. It's whether you do now.